Hey, good morning, everybody. I know that Thanksgiving is coming up, and some of you have already seen the minimalistic Christmas tips video that I put up last week. And so before, it just seems the days are flying by. So before it's too late, I wanted to give you some tips on a minimalistic, lower stress holiday for Thanksgiving. So here are a couple of ideas. I've tried them over the years. I've come up with some of them this year. And so here are some things that I would encourage you to try out so that you can enjoy the holiday more and enjoy your family and friends more, but take some of the stress away from you and off of your plate, pun intended. Okay, so the first thing that I want to suggest is instead of the person hosting Thanksgiving feeling like they need to cook the entire meal, really, truly, people want to bring something to Thanksgiving. I used to ask family members all the time, Grandma, can I bring anything? Aunt Madeline, can I bring anything? And they would be like, No, 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 I've got everything taken care of. But you would go to their house and they would be spending the entire day, sometimes 2 days, cooking different types of food for everybody in the family. And I think back then, when we would all get together, it would be about 20 of us. So big Thanksgiving spread out at multiple rooms, the kids' table in a different room. And that's a lot of stress to put on to one family member, even two family members. Okay. So, what I would highly recommend, and I have one particular friend in mind that I'm thinking of, instead of trying to do the entire thing yourself, you need to start, especially with adult children and adult family members, you need to start delegating dishes to different people. So, have people bring their favorite Thanksgiving dish. Some people absolutely love to make homemade cranberry sauce. I personally do not. I grew up with cranberry sauce jellied out of a can that comes in one solid thing, and that's totally fine. And if some adult child was to show up with just a can of cranberry sauce, I'd be like, good job, you did it. But there's other things that are fairly easy to delegate and to make, things like stuffing, things like certain kinds of casseroles, sweet potato casserole, macaroni and cheese. If someone in the family loves to bake, you can do pies. Pies are a great Thanksgiving Day thing to do, but there's variations on that. You could do cookies, you could do cupcakes. I would even go so far as to say if you wanted to do, you could just do a cake instead of having pie. And of course, if you can't make it yourself, you can always buy it and then zhuzh it up a little bit. So what do I mean by that? You buy, a cake and then you scrape off whatever's on top and you decorate it yourself so that, you've added your own personal touch to it. Or maybe, you buy the instant mixes, but do your own twist and creation on, the boxed spice cake that you buy and make it into something, Thanksgiving like. So that maybe there's pumpkin cream cheese frosting on it or a filling in it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think a lot of people put so much stress on looking up recipes or doing, family traditional recipes. If you're going to do a traditional family recipe, incorporate children, including adult children and family members. A lot of times, some people guard those family recipes because they don't want anyone else to be able to replicate their special casserole that they make for holidays. But if you don't pass along that recipe and that tradition, you can end up in the situation where that family recipe, goes away when you go away. And it's not passed down to anybody that can replicate, the same exact, eggplant rollatini or brajol that, Nana used to make. Because Nana's not here anymore and she never showed anybody. So I would really encourage elders in the family, if you have a special recipe, go ahead and share it with other family members. And, you know, it's basically your job to pass those traditions along. And this is a good time to do it, during Thanksgiving in the kitchen. For those of you that are traveling, long distances to go to Thanksgiving, normally someplace like Walmart is going to be open. And I'm not a huge Walmart fan. I have my issues with Walmart, but they're usually open and you can buy something, you know, and just bring it to Thanksgiving. That could be the mashed potatoes. There's nothing wrong with getting pre-made mashed potatoes where all you need to do is stick it in an oven or in a microwave. Because Thanksgiving Day, you've got so many things that are cooking in the oven, on the stovetop. It might not be possible to do everything, and you have to incorporate a microwave in order to do it. I know a lot of families are very into rolls. Again, you can make everything from scratch, make your own bread from scratch, because if that's your thing in your family and that's the tradition that you want to pass down, then do it. When I was growing up, my mother made stuffing from scratch. And so she would use, old bread to incorporate with, the turkey gizzards and other stuff in order to make the stuffing. But some people just use, stovetop, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever you can do to make cooking less stressful for you, absolutely, positively. All right, another thing that I wanted to bring up for Thanksgiving. I remember after Thanksgiving would be over, people would be washing the dishes. It would go on for hours washing the dishes. Just use disposable paper plates. Paper plates are kinder to the environment than styrofoam plates. But there's nothing wrong with using plasticware for this type of, a large occasion where people are going to be eating. This way, when dinner is done, or some families eat earlier, it's not really dinner, it's more like, lunch. And then all of the leftovers are enjoyed again at dinner. All of that paper can just go into the trash can and nothing has to be washed except for the pans that you use. And that's enough washing to do on Thanksgiving, because all that time that you spend washing dishes is time taken away from your family. Now, if you want that dishwashing to be a bonding moment, I'll give you an example. I've been married previously. My former mother-in-law, go in, wash the dishes together on Thanksgiving. We would all have, our gloves on. It was me and another daughter-in-law, and we would be washing the dishes together. And that would be, our women's time together while the guys were watching the game. A very traditional Italian family, watching the game in the other room. My uncles, my father-in-law, my husband at the time. And that's just how it was done. I never understood this, but, in past years, the family would use cloth napkins and cloth tablecloth, which is a wonderful touch. But if ever there was a time to use a disposable tablecloth, this is the time, because you do get gravy dripped on it. You do get cranberry sauce dripped on it. The kids might accidentally drop a piece of cake on it, or, there's butter, that melts onto it. Lay out the disposable tablecloth. And then when you're done, again, you're just lifting that tablecloth up, folding all of the ends in and putting it into a trash bag. You'll have a lot of trash after this meal is done, but at least you're not washing dishes and you're not trying to also wash linens, because you're trying to get a gravy stain out of, a family heirloom. That's a beautiful tablecloth that someone made that you're trying to hand down to the next generation. Other things to keep in mind, you're going to have all these leftovers. Some families love leftovers and, they like to keep them and enjoy them for days afterwards. I have this thing where after a few days, I start to get worried about, germs, bacteria. The longer food kind of lingers in the refrigerator, the less fresh it is. I don't care how well you've packed it up. So what I like to do is I like to give away leftovers and have people leave with leftovers. I saw a great trick the other day, and I don't know how feasible it is, but someone took, instead of like a paper plate, or a Tupperware, they had an aluminum foil pan that was a muffin pan, and they put the leftovers in there and then covered it with the aluminum foil. This way, when that person went home, they could put it in the oven, heat up the leftovers that way, because usually it tastes better than putting it in the microwave. And it was easier to transport because everything was in those little muffin tins instead of on a plate where it could all just kind of mush together. Everything was separated in its own individual cups. I'm going to try to test it out this year. I'll let you know how it works. But especially if you have relatives that are going a long distance, they might not want to take leftovers because that car ride, if it's a 3-hour car ride and they get stuck in traffic also, what's going on with those leftovers? Again, I don't know, like maybe some of you are brave, but if you've wrapped it up really well, but it's in the car and it's been 3 to 4 hours, you know, how much do you trust that microwaving it or putting it in the oven is going to bring it back to life? I used to be a lot braver, but when you get older and you start having stomach issues, you don't want to test uh, those theories on, yeah, sure, it'll be fine. I think, when I was younger, I was braver, kill whatever, might be multiplying right now because it's been sitting in the car unrefrigerated for 4 hours. Other things to keep in mind. If you are going to, be putting out a charcuterie board, it's a really good idea to cover it in plastic and keep it refrigerated and not put it out until you're actually ready for people to start coming over and noshing on it. Just, an FYI, most cheeses, you want to keep cheese, butter, eggs, and things that are made with those items in the refrigerator. And you think about like food safety. I know it sounds crazy. Most people probably don't do this, but if you read the instructions on how to cook turkey, which is a form of, poultry and bird, you have to be careful with things like cross contamination and spreading around, that raw meat juice that's on your hands. So just use common sense. Don't rush, don't be in a panic. Again, if you delegate dishes to everybody, hopefully you don't have as much work and you're not as rushed. If you're the one making the turkey, you can focus on just the turkey, which is the star of the show anyway. For those of you that can afford to, there's a lot of places where you can actually go and buy Thanksgiving dinner and have it catered. There was a year, where we had done Cracker Barrel for catering one of the holidays, and that was okay. But there are other restaurants that you can go to and do catering and pick it up the day before, keep it in the refrigerator overnight, and then that morning you're getting up and you're heating up trays and following the instructions that they gave you. My thing is, there's nothing more priceless really than the time that you have with your family. So if you can afford to pass off some of the work to somebody else, this would be the time to splurge and do it and make your life easier. Other things to keep in mind, okay? If you have a blended family, it's possible that you have children that are being kind of torn, like, okay, do I go to this house for Thanksgiving or do I go to this house for Thanksgiving? We had weddings this year. So not only do we have adult children that have different biological parents to go to, now they also have in-laws to go to. And, you might not get to have Thanksgiving with your children this year. If for some reason you're not having Thanksgiving with them, but you want to see them on Thanksgiving, you can always give them the option of only coming over for dessert. So, and this would be a great way to save yourself some stress. Instead of making a meal and cooking for an entire family, have everybody come over to your house for the dessert part of dinner. And okay, you're having lunch, Thanksgiving dinner with this family at, 2:30. Come over to our house at 6:30, 7, and we'll have dessert and coffee. And by that time, they've had enough time to digest dinner. And so they can thoroughly enjoy whatever pies, cakes, cookies you have for them, and also coffee and tea, or depending on, what they like to drink, maybe adult beverages. I hope this gave you some, helpful tips about how to make the holidays less stressful for you. I really want to encourage you. We talk about turkeys at Thanksgiving, but of course, you don't have to do an entire turkey. You could just do a turkey breast. I've been at Thanksgivings where they do all Italian food. I've been at Thanksgivings where they only have ham, and they bought the ham from Honey Baked Ham. Not a sponsor, but I would love for them to be a sponsor. So just, think outside of the box. Keep the traditions that are meaningful to you and your family. But at the same time, remember that you're going to have to be flexible. There are more food allergies now than ever before. And we actually had a little conversation in my family about, gluten, and did we need to have a certain number of gluten-free options? Have those conversations. We have someone that's, vegetarian. So they're obviously not going to eat turkey. So what options can we have for them? And when you're making sides, keep in mind, we're not going to be putting meat in the sides. So if you're doing stuffing, for example, you're not going to be putting things like sausage in it or any type of meat. So my mom's old Thanksgiving stuffing recipe would not work because it had the turkey gizzards and stuff in it. Like I said, it's stressful around the holidays and we're getting closer. Just try to enjoy them and be present for them. And if something goes wrong on the date of the holiday, just try to be present and laugh it off and not take it too seriously. I mean, God forbid you're that person that's, frying a turkey in a deep fryer for the first time and it blows up and goes skyrocketing into the air. I think some of you might have seen those YouTube videos before where a turkey ends up becoming a missile. It happens, and, thank God for, Chinese food and pizza. There's always some restaurant that's going to be open on Thanksgiving that can save the day so that, people aren't going to starve. And, if that happens to the turkey or whatever, your main dish is, just go with the flow and realize that, okay, that's how it's going to be this Thanksgiving. And everybody will remember this Thanksgiving. And again, it'll be funny next year. It might not be funny right now, especially if you put a lot of work into it, but try to see the humor in those holiday moments. Let's call them that, holiday moments, not holiday mishaps. So I hope you have a great holiday. I'm not sure what my schedule will be in terms of posting, because again, as we get closer to the holidays, it gets busier and busier. But the goal is to put up a new video for you every week to offer you helpful tips so that you have a more joyful and less stressful life. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe so that you get the notification for the next time that I post a video. And remember that I also have my blog. It's www.legallyquirky.com/blog. There's many tips out there, including how to deal with depression, anxiety, how to deal with money and investing, things that you may want to consider as tax season, and open enrollment is happening right now. So enjoy your holidays, and I hope I see you again soon. Thank you.